impact all camp. You can't help but notice him day in and day out in practice. He approaches the practice field with a tremendous amount of energy. He was locked in really the entire offseason. When you think about our Zoom meetings, he's a guy that's just always focused on what he can do to try and get better. So I think it's a credit to his work ethic, his effort, and then I think Coach Lynn has done a tremendous job with him as well. And all those guys in the secondary of just teaching them the intricate details of our defense and going out there and executing.
And a follow-up, along those lines, what John was talking about with Travis Kelce, when you have had games against Patrick Mahomes, you guys have seen him a lot, everybody's watched him. What are some of the takeaways for what makes this guy a special quarterback, and what are some of the things that you think about, just as a defense in general in trying to defend a quarterback like that, an elite quarterback? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, he's honestly one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. And the thing about him is the play is never over. You think you got him in the grass, if he escapes and he's chucking the ball down the field. Doesn't matter if he escapes to the right of the pocket, the left side of the pocket. He can make every throw from every angle. The guy is remarkable. What poses the biggest problem, particularly as a rusher, is typically when you're facing quarterbacks, you can give them a launch point. This guy likes to launch the ball between anywhere from 7 yards to 6.5 behind the snap. You can't say that about Pat. He could throw this ball from anywhere on the football field and still make every throw. So he certainly poses a problem, but we're going to do our best to try to limit his explosive plays.
Cody.
Hey, Coach. After everything that you have seen throughout training camp, how much do you believe Ross Blacklock and Jonathan Grenard will play in the Texans' defensive schemes this coming season?
Yeah, I think both of those guys have had really good training camps. Now, Grenard's been hindered a little bit by a hamstring injury or a leg injury or something like that, so he's put himself behind the 8 ball a little bit as far as contributing early. But I do expect all those rookies to contribute at some point. Head coach has said it multiple times. This is a tough year for rookies, and it absolutely is. There's a bunch of cumulative reps that they've missed out on, whether it was in the spring or in preseason games. But at some point in this season, because of their work ethic, they're all going to contribute and help us here throughout this year.
Aaron Reese.
Hey, Anthony, I can't remember which of your players it was now, but at some point during the offseason, they mentioned you quizzing them with an app called Kahoot.
Yeah.
How did you implement that, and how exactly did it work, and what other virtual learning devices, if any, did you use and plan to continue using as the season goes on? Thank you.
Yeah, well, obviously with COVID and everything happening, we were forced to do everything virtually. So as a coach, it forced you really to try to think outside the box just to keep the meetings interesting and engaging for a generation of guys that have grew up in the iPhone age. So there's a lot of what we did that they were just comfortable with in meeting on Zoom and talking. I mean, guys are always on their phones, they're Instagramming, they're FaceTiming, they're doing all those things. So all we tried to do was figure out a way to incorporate a learning tool that's used, throughout any form of education, whether it's high schools, elementary schools, colleges, they all use it. And we just use it to try to implement some of our teaching of the defense. So these guys are competitive. So anytime you can create a competitive environment, regardless of what it is, whether you're playing a Jeopardy game or Kahoot, whatever it is, they get involved. And while they may not realize it, they're having fun, right? They're having a blast. They're challenging one another, but they're also learning. And for us as coaches, that's obviously the end goal.
Greg.
Hey, Anthony, earlier you told us my favorite quote at training camp. You were looking for 11 wild dogs. How are we doing on the 11 wild dog scale? And how do you see the aggressiveness of this defense kind of build on itself once you guys get started? We saw some really fun things as that built in the scrimmage that we got to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, right now I feel confident that we have more than 11. And that's a credit to the roster that coach and Jack Easterby have built. Now it's just about us just going out there and executing and doing our jobs. But you can feel the cohesiveness and the confidence of the group building each and every day. And that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel as far as this football X's and O's. We just want these guys to know what to do, to feel confident in the scheme, to build trust with one another so that they can go out there and put on a good show on Sunday. So I feel really good about those dogs, man. And we come hungry and humble and ready to eat every day.
Brian.
Coach, I know every week we talk about, when we talk to you, we talk about the progression of Justin Reed and just how good he is. But now coming into this season, being the veteran that he is, having, being as high of a thinker that he is, how good is it to also have another Stanford grad like Michael Thomas there to also help him out?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. You can't have enough smart guys, particularly back there in that secondary. There's so many adjustments they have to make throughout the game, whether it's, formationally 2x2, 3x1, is it condensed formation? Are they stacked? There's just so communication that goes on so that you can get all those guys on the same page. I compare it a lot to the telephone game when you're younger. You start off, you say one thing to somebody, by the time it gets to the guy on the other side of the field, who knows what they said? So we're trying to do our best to master the telephone game. And when you got smarter guys back there, like a Michael Thomas, a Justin Reed, and Eric Murray, or Bradley Roby, it obviously makes that communication, that cohesion, a lot more cleaner.
Aaron Wilson.
Anthony, when you look at your secondary and the development that you guys have had, how much better equipped do you feel like you are now after camp, after the off season, or games like this one where you're going to be challenged by a quarterback that will put the ball where he wants, and also a fast group of receivers? Thank you.
I feel really confident about where our secondary is at this point. And I think a lot of that's attributed to the fact that you had a bunch of guys who had worked together previously. And then, I know I mentioned this guy, I feel like every press conference, but I truly believe that Danton Lynn and Coach Broomfield have done a tremendous job in just teaching these guys and teaching them the ins and outs of everything that we're trying to do. And it's a credit to the players as well as taking that information in and going out there and executing it at a high level right now. So hopefully, the goal is to carry that into the game. The one thing you want to do is practice execution equals game reality. And I feel to this point, we've done a good job of executing at practice, and we got to make sure we stay true to that come game day.
We got time for two more. We'll go Brandon and then John.
Hey, you were mentioning earlier how it's important to make Travis Kelce uncomfortable when you guys defend him. Could you just speak to the importance of guys like Zach Cunningham and Lonnie Johnson and some of the versatile guys that y'all are going to call on to do stuff like that?
Yeah, can't say enough about those guys. In the defense that we're trying to implement, position flexibility and multiplicity is extremely important, because when you have guys that can do multiple jobs, it makes it very hard on an offense to eliminate any particular player, because you don't necessarily know where they're going to be. So when you have guys that have the coverage flexibility of a Lonnie Johnson, of a Zach Cunningham, it gives you some flexibility to do more on defense and be more creative. So those guys, I can't tell you, they have so much value for our defense, and because of their intellect as well, that enables us to do more as well. Because they are smart guys. They play really hard. They obviously have some position flex, but they're also really, really bright.
John.
Anthony, how have you seen O'Brien evolve as a coach, and what does it say about him that he's given you an opportunity to call plays for the first time?
First, I obviously I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity that Coach O'Brien's given me. I will be forever indebted to him for this opportunity. As far as him and his growth as a coach, every single year I've been here, he's undergone some kind of transformation for the better. And it's not every person, a lot of people don't do that. You gotta be able to set, yourself aside and be able to look at the big picture and realize where you need to grow as a human being. I tell people all the time, you're growing or you're dying, whether you're a player or a coach in this league. And he understands that. So the thing that people don't realize about coach is that you only see this, you see the one dimension, right, that you always see on TV and on the sidelines, but there's so many more layers and depths to him. He's a tremendous person, and he continues to get better and look at himself in the mirror to try to get better each and every day.
Thanks, Coach.